thing overboard is the cargo. Don't notice the travel logs, just make way for them. How we got here means nothing. The destination is more important to the captain. What happens in the belly of the ship should stay there. Who taught you to speak so proudly? Stand with your back straight like the masthead. You must gotten an affirmative action owed to some air of better breeding for your kind. The lash and serving, you are upsetting the natural order of things. God damned you to this birthright. It's the way, it's this way for a reason. You are better suited for your station. Even when you know which way the wind blows and why, better you be still, packed tightly together, clawing for space. You are violent and wretched, a wild, untamed savage. The chief's, the, the chief's mate, um, Leggedy, is your station, a place below him. The hierarchy solid as the bow of the ship, our final port ashore into the wide open arms of more masters. Oh,
So on the back of the gift excerpt and prompt, we have the vessels excerpt and prompt. Prompt is, what happens if the status quo is challenged? Can you imagine how the world might look different without privilege as it currently exists? Again, what happens if the status quo is challenged? Can you imagine how the world might look different without privilege as it currently exists? We've kind of had some of that conversation, so we could move forward with that or tangent.
Yeah, I think talent, what about Martin Luther King say, man, judged by his character, not by the color of his skin. I think the reason why his talent is doled out to everybody by, will of God. So some people just smarter, some people just faster, some people just stronger. That's a privilege to that. But I think the world would look more like how things should be if not for the fact that people manipulate with racial privilege, right? So the fastest runner don't get the most attention because he's not in the right color group. Even if he was white, if you're a white dude and you run fast, everybody assume you can't and you fall. You could potentially be great, but they won't put you in a position to be great. They'll stop you from being great because you're not in the group of people that they think you ought to be. Or if you're black and you're in architecture, you won't be an architect. You'll be a basketball player because they want you to do what they want you to do. So I don't know. I mean, I think the world would be a better place if we eliminated these roles that we use to define us. Because privilege leads right into racism. You feel what I'm saying? Like, it leads right into that. It's not the same thing because you can have privilege and not be racist, but it leads into it because you take that privilege and you start to wield that privilege over other people that may not necessarily want it, and then they're in a circumstance where they're forced to do something they don't want to do or something they're not suited for because they feel like they have to because it's within the confines of the constructs that they build around us to make us seem. Whatever, I got lost. But yeah, to make it seem like things are going the way they want them to. White people Asian people are supposed to be smart. What if you're an Asian dude that's artistic? Why would you, now you forced into this role because you assumed to be in this class of people that do this thing that you might not want to do. Or, if you're black and you're not really into sports, you like reading books and comics and writing poetry. You know what I mean? Now you stuck with this shit. You know what I mean? Now I gotta go play football, and I want to play football. You gotta kind of be careful with that in your kids, man. Especially my son, I try not to. He's into magic and aliens. I mean, I don't push LeBron James on him. He don't give a damn. You know what I mean? So why would I try to use that to stage him? You know what I mean? That's racism. I guess more privilege. Privilege is racism too.
All the isms.
Yeah. We fighting that, but I don't know. Some of that stuff's weird to me. Like, I don't know. I'm not comfortable in a lot of situations. But hey man, I was raised, and I don't know how many people understand that, but I was raised at a different time, and sometimes I'm not comfortable, and I don't know how to talk about it, it's difficult. That's why these programs have been so awesome for me. Hear other people's opinions because sometimes I be like I'm not scheduled to be at the gender one tomorrow, but I kind of want to sit and just not say nothing and listen because I have a hard time with that whole thing. But that's a privilege though that I don't have to do. You know, my gender to me is so well defined that I don't have to have the luxury of going. Well, that doesn't make sense. Well, some of it's not supposed to make sense. That's a privilege. Buster Drake,
Hey, hi.
and it suits you. It suits you.
Hey.
I write poems and shit.
I write
Howdy. Start over.
Good, how are you?
What's your name?
I'm Jackson.
You said what?
Jackson.
Jackson. I thought you said Jackson. I was about to say,
No.
that is interesting.
No, I'm not that interesting.
I'm Bobby.
My neighborhood.
Very nice to meet
How are you? Nice to see you. I'm so good. I was just meeting with
you. So hot in here.
Is it hot
Mario, that's a,
It's probably hot in there.
Yeah, I know.
It's probably hot in there.
that's a whole point, because
I didn't want to read one brick by car. I just want to read the one brick by night.
security and masculinity. Think of it as a privilege.
I don't know what it feels like. I'm keenly aware of. I don't know what it feels like. So I can't judge somebody.
He just gave me
for
one
feeling
by
awkward
night.
in their body because I feel confident about it.
Yeah.
And so then, but it's difficult, man. It's real difficult. Because I'm used to certain brands and certain realities and certain ways I was raised. Honest to God, man, I was raised not to cry. I swear to you. And I don't, the people that's 18 and 19 who don't have that, as much as it was when I was a kid, it was accepted to tell you, boy, if you're gonna cry, go in the house. You understand what I'm saying? As opposed to just letting you experience the emotion. You weren't alive. I wasn't alive. My mama, for real, everybody tell the story, but I ran home from a fight. And his boys was chasing me, and my mama closed the door, said, go back outside and fight him. It wasn't no, oh, save him, like, because it's a cold world. And that was her. But so when you deal with that, and then you see the world now, I just don't, sometimes I feel like a dinosaur, man. Like, I don't belong here. I don't even know what these people are talking about because I was raised different. But see, it's a privilege that because of that rearing, it made me certain ways. And some of that stuff is crazy. I got some crazy ideas floating around in my head. But some of those things I cherish. And it's like knowing what to keep and what to throw out. Because I'm not throwing away my grandfather because somebody said that because he spanked me. Like, I'm not, oh, well, he must have been off. That was terrible. No, I was kind of fucking up. Like, you know what I'm saying? So I'm not throwing out my grandfather. And in the same way that they won't throw away Thomas Jefferson, but he was a rapist. You know what I'm saying? They won't throw away George Washington, but he was a murderer and a rapist and a slave owner. I'm not throwing away certain of my heritage. My ancestors did what they did because they thought it was the best thing they could do when they did it. And even those close ancestors and distant ones. Kanye, slavery was no choice, Paul. Sorry, I got the soapbox. But this is the soapbox. You see what I did?
So,
You are keeping two of the fun.
question, especially for the new people in the room, but to the entire room as well. What is the most interesting thing you heard in a conversation about privilege that completely like 180 your understanding of what privilege was? So someone said a thing and what you thought you knew about privilege, no, I don't know that. And now I see privilege differently.
Being imposing. Like, I'm 6'2", 250. And there was a black woman who said that I had been using my stature, standing next to people, just squaring up shoulder to shoulder, that was intimidating or that pushed people in the room. And not in a I'm bigger than you kind of way, but in a very, her wording was weird, but what I took from it was that it was the way that I presented myself was with so much confidence that it pushed, that it kind of trampled over other people.
Mhm.
And I was like, so was it like white privilege confidence? Was that how you viewed what I did? Is that what you viewed? Because I've been trying to get there. I've been trying to get to white privilege confidence. Like that's a level of confidence. So
At some level.
that is a level.
We were in the airport recently, and this guy walked up like, "We're in this key. We're at this station. Oh man, my airport's yet. We're at this
you in
station
airports,
checking in." Tasha and I are standing here checking in.
Yeah.
So this next little spot right here, this guy just comes over, like he comes up and drops his bag on the thing. You know, like he comes up, just drop his bag on the drone, and he's already walking off.
Oh, yeah.
When she says, "Excuse me, sir, your bag's too heavy," right? And he says, I'm military, figure it out.
Wow.
Some shit like that. He's like,
And that was it.
and he's already.
No,
like,
he just kept going. He
He's already
didn't
escalated.
stop and come back and go, well, look at
He's
this
already
stuff. He
escalated.
just
And that's
kept
that
going.
confidence you were talking about. Like I
He
was
just-
like, oh shit, you can do that? and know that my bag will be wherever I need it to be. Like he wasn't.
Right, yeah, like,
Right.
yeah, I don't, like if so
And if
that
it wasn't, you
that
was gonna
flip.
talk to somebody about
Oh,
it.
he was gonna have a
He's gonna
conversation.
write that letter.
It was gonna be an email of this world. But like that flipped me, and that made me really self-conscious in a room, and it really messes with me.
That's what she did.
It
So
made
do
me
you like
really-
droop your shoulders now?
No, there's no way.
Sometimes.
No.
That's the truth. Like sometimes I'll realize like I'm really, and you kind of I try not to internalize it, but I have internalized it. So I'm trying to get over it and figure out a new reality based off of the information. Because I have broad shoulders, and I was raised and taught. You walk into a room, you're in the room.
Right.
You're in the room. Like you don't. It's not an accident that you're in the room. You use your legs to get here. Stand up straight. Keep your chin up. Right. Look people in the face when you talk to them.
Or
Like those are things that I was raised with. So for somebody else to feel like, because we were in a room where it was mostly women, and I was doing those things, it felt like I was just bullying my way. To her, it felt like I was just being able to do and say whatever I wanted to.
And we have talked about that consciousness and that just comparison can be helpful in figuring out how to address those examples of privilege, just being aware of your place as compared to other people.
I don't think you can make a
So
line
how
on
is that?
lamb. I don't think you can make a line on lamb. You gotta be who you are.
I think that's
But I can understand the privilege part to say, to be conscious of the fact that I'm a dude, I'm taller, and sometimes somebody might have something to say, but they don't feel like they can say it because I'm there.
So then
It's
how do you
also,
make them
but you
able
don't,
to say
but then you just condescending. Then you don't want to bend down. You don't want to bend down to get on their level.
what would you like to say?
That's a Dasha thing.
So to your point, when Mario and I first met, so we had a conversation with somebody else, like, why does she always talk to me that way? And he's like, man, what do you mean? She's not like that. Ask her. And so he says, he's like, why do you always bend down to talk to me? In my head, I'm a tall person. And I'm thinking, I don't want to, we're having a discussion and I'm
Want to be on your level.
physically looking down at you.
Physically looking.
So in my head, as a tall person, I would think I would not like that feeling. I don't
I've been short my
know.
whole life.
I know.
You
So
talk,
I didn't bend
hear
down, but I was always level, like at the bar.
You did bend down.
So we were still more level, so we could have a conversation and remove the, he was
Wow.
like, yeah, I've been short my whole life. I don't do that. And I appreciate it. Oh, I thought I was.
Don't like you
I thought it
thought.
was
You
you
thought
something.
wrong.
I said, no.
But yeah, but I'm saying you don't want to condescend to people, but at the same time, you can't change who you are. I want you to be perfectly you, Drake, Dash. I want you to be perfectly you, but just be mindful that sometimes I might have something to say, and I'm a little person in the room and give me an opportunity to say it instead of talking over me. But I think she was just trying to get in your head. That was a chess move. trying to say, drop this on you, and now you weirded out, and you can't talk no more, and now you don't
I mean,
fuck.
it
Why do
succeeded.
you think that?
Question.
It succeeded. It did debase me in the room.
It does. It takes all the power away
It
from
takes
you.
the power.
Now I don't know what to do.
Yeah,
I'm freaking out. I'm
You
freaking
think, you
out.
think that was intentional?
Yes, it was. And I know it was.
Because it definitely kept me from
Talking.
So in Mario's head, she just wanted you to shut up, and so she said the thing to get you to shut up.
I know
And-
that I've called out people, like, I'm actually, like, I remember having a specific example with, like, somebody and being like, and it was a male, and being like, and I was in a room full of men, and I was like one of the few women in the room, and I remember like telling like a friend, I was like, listen, like you need to be aware, and it wasn't like, I don't want you to be quiet because I like your ideas, I'm glad you're in the room. But it was more like, I need you to check like the space that you're taking up. And that's like, I mean, for me, that's what privilege is that like you get to take up more space because you've never been told you can't. And so, and so I feel like, so people with privilege, and we all like have them in some sorts of ways, and they're all different in different levels. There's gender privilege, there's racial privilege, there's, I mean, even just age privilege or educational privilege that allows us to feel like we can take up space or not take up space. And I guess when I feel like I'm in a room full of men who have lots of ideas, especially particularly educated men, I feel like I'm struggling to find room to speak. And so in that moment, I mean, maybe that's what she was trying to like, just be like.
No, I think some people manipulative though. I think people use that. I understand. I don't know what it's like to be a woman, right? And I know that women, Josh taught me this a long time ago, and we had this discussion online too about how women are taught to be small and fit in their space and don't get in the way. I don't know what that feels like. But if we're in a business setting, everybody's competing to be the man. And how can you make, I don't know, man. Again, I've said this before, I say it again. I feel like I live in a whole nother world and I'm a dinosaur because we all competing for resources and you don't get to, if you don't feel like you can talk, then maybe this, I hate to say that, but I feel like if you feel like you can't talk, but then that's privilege though. You shouldn't be in a business.
See,
Like
hold
you
on.
shouldn't be
Yeah,
there.
you
It's
can go back and
privilege.
you can go back
It's
and forth with
privilege.
that. I think there's a line in the sand.
It
Right?
is.
Like if we say, if
You
we
wanna
all,
be fair.
so if we all step into a space and we're competing for something,
Mhm.
there is nobody in this room that's going to beat me.
Right.
And I don't care how privileged that looks.
Right.
Right. That's period. It's not. I'm not here for anything but that, and we're all trying to get that.
Mhm.
So let's see who wins. It's a competition, and I feel like if you're in the same room, you're in the same level. We're of the same stature. I don't look at you because you're a woman and you're in the room and oh well, I got a leg up here because she's not really going to be able to address it like I can address it as a man. Like no, I'm going to crush you the same way I'm going to crush King. Like,
Right.
you're in the room. We have one thing that we're going after.
So
And I agree with you that I have a lot of growing up to do in that circumstance because I don't know what it feels like to be a woman and to be told that you have to do that. And I try to understand, but it's really difficult. You know what I mean?
Yeah, for sure. And I think also part of it too is that like, yeah, like, you know, I don't want you to like not share your thoughts or like be like, oh, can you, Katie, share your thoughts before I share mine. But I think it's what happens in rooms is that other people are already gonna assume that your ideas are better than mine. You know, what I mean? Not everybody, but like that's like in that room. Like the amount of times I've been asked if I was an intern when I'm leading projects.
Wow.
And I asked if I'm still a student because I'm sure I look younger than I am. So I'm all like that, yeah. And then when I actually had I'm managing interns, like my intern knows more than me if they're a man. I'm like, this is like I'm mentoring this person,
Wow.
but they probably know
I
more.
just don't
You're
know.
right.
You're right.
Right, but they probably know more. Yeah.
I want to think about more about this competition analogy. My mind immediately went to the reality TV shows where there's all these different competitions and we see who gets the thing in the end, right? It's $100,000. You got to do this team exercise. You got to eat a bug. You got to have some sort of strength competition. There's some sort of mind game, and there's all these different categories in which you compete to get the thing, right?
Yeah.
And if you think about all these different types of privilege, as the brain exercise, as the strength exercise, as the team exercise, right? I guess the question is, do these different levels of privilege and the fact that we all do have some of it in some way, does that provide some balance? So that in the end, whoever gets the thing, they deserve the thing.
I don't know
That
if
make
they,
sense?
I don't know if they always deserve it though. I think sometimes privilege can overstep that, right? And people that don't get it, that's why I'm mad at it. Is when privilege influences the outcome of the competition because they design the competition to fit your group.
Yeah.
What they call it when they used to do the testing, the standardized testing.
Yeah.
And then the black kids, they ask you questions that black kids wouldn't even know anything about. So they design the test to fit a certain mindset. So when you let privilege creep into that, and the privilege makes the competition unfair, that becomes a problem. Yeah, that's my thought.
I mean, my thought, and excuse me for dipping in and out, but I gotta go. I love y'all all. But my thought on that is, if you gotta, what Mario said is true to the extent that if the competition is rigged, then it's rigged to somebody's privilege. If the idea that, diversity and inclusion has become such a hot topic now, but it's still just another hot topic now, and not actual diversity or inclusion, is another form of rigging. So it's one of those things where actual diversity and inclusion for a competition, whatever the competition for the thing is, needs to look like I think a more open discussion about what is this thing, who benefits from this thing, right? Like if we have $1 million grant and it's supposed to be for schools in the hood, I'm sorry, but having people at the table who don't represent that don't make sense, right? And so then you normally get a reverse or a flip on that, where it's like, no, there should be the white guy, the white woman, the black guy, black woman, the LGBTQ or QT, and then you gotta have the da-da-da-da. And it's like, no, you don't need that list. What you need are people who have been in the hood and experienced this teaching at this horrible level and know how to fix it. And that's the diversity that you need there, right? But we use it like, that's like rigging the game. It's like saying, okay, here's this checkbox of inclusion, right? By look and by gender and by age. That makes sense for public relations, but that doesn't make sense for the game, for the thing.
But my board is all white. My board, my admin is all white.
Right.
Right.
But we have diversity everywhere else.
Right.
In our organization.
In our organization. Yeah. Yeah. Love you.
Thank you.
All right. See you.
Can I interject in? Are we talking about privilege, right?
Yeah.
Okay. So for me, I've been in instances where I have been able to use quote unquote the white man's privilege.
How'd you do that?
I think so.
All ears.
She got the
Get the
cheat
cheat
code.
And all that is just like taking the power, what I'm saying, back and recognizing that fuck your privilege, at least in this instance, what I'm saying, de-identify, fuck the boxes, fuck what I'm supposed to do, what I'm saying, for the system, what I'm saying, what are we doing here, because I know who I am and what I bring to the table, outside of what you identify me as, and how does that look? That looks like being the quote unquote angry black woman or the loud black woman or saying the most uncomfortable thing so everybody uncomfortable all at once. You know what I'm saying? Regardless of if you're uncomfortable about the same damn thing, and just like literally evening the playing field or recognizing or letting everyone else know in the room that, hi, I know that we're supposed to talk about or not talk about race, or there is privilege. I know that I am the only black person at this table, and I'm going to use that, to my advantage. Like literally, we can't have this conversation without the only black person at the table. So I'm gonna fuck around and leave. You know what I'm saying?
Right. Now what? Wow. That's presence is a present, kiss my ass.
Yeah, so it's just recognizing that the privilege, you have as much privilege as you recognize as much, and you only have as much power as you give the next person.
I think so many people was brought, like she was alluded to earlier on Twitter and that, but a a lot of people are taught these social rules, and in order to defeat privilege, you gotta be willing to, well, I don't care, like, women are taught to be a certain way, sit a certain way, act a certain way, and when you have the privilege of going, fuck your rules or whatever you talking about, if you want to call me an angry black woman, then call me an angry black woman, say I'm a mad black dude, say whatever you want to say, I'm gonna be in this moment and be exactly who I am, and then you can define it. That takes a lot of power. I think most people aren't as courageous as you are sometimes to do that. They feel like if they do that, they just out there now. You know what I mean? And there's a privilege and confidence that you have. I mean, to be willing to be brave. Everybody's not brave.
It's true, but I've been out there though.
Yeah, I believe it.
Yeah. It ain't nothing, you know, it's like, it's literally nothing, like, once you step into that,
Yeah, I believe it.
like, the next thing is recognizing you ain't just out there.
But no, everybody's not as courageous as you are. Just know that that's a privilege to have the courage and will to do that. Because some people get in that situation and they cower because they like, I can't, I want to.
Yeah.
It's just too much. And I don't think but you know, as long as you're able to articulate your fear, I think it's easier for me to accept it. Like, man, I really want to talk, but I'm scared. And I'll hold your hand, fam, and let's do this together.
Right.
You know what I mean? And I think that's another way we can defeat privilege together. If we just hold each other's hands, I don't know how the hell
I'm curious to hear everyone, a privilege that you acknowledge, that you recognize that you have, and then maybe another privilege that you are still struggling to understand.
Oh, I got this big dick.
You leave. Once again,
Did I
it
get
is.
it?
You heard her. Once again, it's
You feel me
early.
say I think one privilege that I know that I have, is having that voice, regardless of me being looked at as intimidating or being that angry black woman. I have a voice and I can speak in any crowd, in any place that I go. And I think that's a privilege because of, like you said, there's a lot of people who do not have that, courageous trait. They don't have that they give more power to others in the room, and it's more so of, not understanding who they are themselves. So I think that's specifically is a privilege that I've taken and I've owned it. And a thing that I'm struggling with having the privilege of is kind of going back to the, how do you feel ungrateful? How do you not feel ungrateful with, what the things that are going through, but I'm able to wake up and breathe every day. I'm able to, eat a full meal. I'm able to get clean water. I'm able to do this. That's one I think that I'm struggling with because of, I don't know how to be not ungrateful for that. I think that's a privilege that I really, in myself, is always struggling with.
Right. But the privileges that you have,
And the privilege that you struggle with.
So I got a number of them, and I don't want this to sound as arrogant as it's gonna sound, but it's gonna sound like that.
you fam.
Be tall.
So I
Walk up in the room.
I have privilege of, I guess, confidence. I have privilege of conviction and feeling like these are my beliefs and this is how I feel, and I'm walking that and saying that. And I know that makes you uncomfortable, that I don't wear a bra, but you'll be all right. You'll be all right. So privilege of conviction. It's hard to think about this as a privilege because in a lot of ways it makes me feel unsafe, but like privilege of like attractiveness, I guess.
It is.
Just being attractive is a privilege. People treat you differently when they think you look nice. And my heterosexuality as well. There's a number.
I'm keenly aware of the privilege that I have of being intellectual. I have a son with a learning disability. Before that, I was a very impatient person with other people. And in the time of 9 years, I've known this dude and what it's like to not be able, not have the cognitive ability to do something. I didn't understand what that was. And I felt like if I can explain it to you, you can do it. He doesn't have the cognitive ability. He can't do it. And I realized that I'm privileged to be smart. It's a curse because you see things, but at the same time, it's a privilege because everybody ain't bright. I'm courageous. I don't care what anybody think. I really don't. And I know that that's a privilege because I've been around people who panic in moments where I need them to be solid, right? And I understand that that's not it's something I was gifted with. It's a privilege to be like that because most people are scared, and it's not wrong being afraid to talk about it.
Right.
I also know that I'm privileged to be a male in ways I didn't understand most of the time. And in the last 5-10 years, I've learned so much about what it means to have that masculine privilege and be in situations and get to be a man and having never been told that I couldn't say what I want to say and I got to sit a certain way, I got to talk a certain way, just being able to be me. I understand that. And because of that privilege, I got to be mindful of that, right? It's difficult because I was just having this discussion for everybody got here. It's difficult because I was raised a certain kind of way. And I can't go back and raise myself. So I got all these weird ideas floating around in my head. And we also talked about earlier about how privilege is being able to cut it on and off. I don't have to worry about what it means to be a woman sometimes because I need to be a man, right? I don't have to worry about what it means to be not be intellectually capable sometimes because I'm smart, right? And so I get to do that when I want to, and that bothers me, but I have to be concerned with the conditions of other people. But it was made even more reticent and real to me when I had a son with a learning disability. So now it makes me more empathetic, you know what I mean, to the situation. I think I answered the question. I didn't answer the question. I got lost. I'm sorry, y'all.
As people just pops in, we're asking folks to share privileges that you know that you carry and privileges that you still are working to understand. So we've covered confidence and intellect and heterosexuality, gender.
So, I'm privileged in being emotional, I guess. Being able to feel, understand, or being empathetic. I'm still getting to understand that, so like how to control that or how to, because sometimes I can dive in or completely detach myself. I used to be like either or, and like now I'm definitely trying to learn on how to like, they can be 70 and 30 sometimes, and 40, 60, so so that's what I'm trying to figure out, I guess. What that looks like.
Yeah, I think piggyback off of that, I was raised in, mother, grandmother, great grandmother, a lot of aunts kind of situations. So I think I understand now as a 40-year-old man that it has been a privilege to give myself permission to feel, and to have as close to a full human experience as I think I've been capable of, and I see, work with a lot of men who are limited because are still trying to strive or lean into the full human experience, being able to feel all the emotions possible. I think being tall and slender, to Rye's point, I feel like I've been invited to certain rooms, so it's easy to look at. But in that also, I feel that my high emotional IQ is a privilege. I feel like I'm able to be around and be in proximity to humans in very sincere and authentic ways. And I'm able to, I think tomorrow's where I'm able to think a thought and communicate it. And that has given me the ability to just move around this planet, and feel safe and feel safe. So I've, in most situations, like even if my physical safety is on the line, I feel confident that I can read this human in a way and be able to communicate with this human in a way to make this moment fulfilling for both of think I struggle with I work in an environment where there's a lot of conversations around feminism and, and so I struggle with understanding my privilege as a man in the same way that it has been explained to me by some women. And I think a big part of my hurdle in that conversation is I am a Black man, and it's impossible for me to just disconnect the two. So I think as a Black man, some of that privilege that I'm supposed to have is a wash. But there again, listening to Bobby Drake, I know that I've had someone say, and now granted, we were in the course of an argument, so I read it as, I've had someone kind of explain that I was using my physical self to be intimidating, which, understanding the physiological science between the two, I have to receive that. It wasn't my intention. So I can see that moment as a moment of privilege. I didn't have to think about that, but I still look, trying to understand my privilege as a man in the same way that it was explained to me.
I want to give, in the realm of privilege, I want to give people who are newer in the room a chance to speak and ask people who have been here for a while to give them their space. But a quick follow-up to all the tall people in the room, I guess. I wonder if it's heard as you're using your stature to do the thing, or if the person is actually saying you're using your stature to do the thing. Because no one can really tell you that this is what you're doing. Like, you're using this to do this, if that's not your intent. So it's like, are you just hearing that based on what they said, or were those the words?
In my situation, those were the words. But to your point, it was going to the training thing about calling people out, calling people in, whether or not you're, and we had a discussion too in one of the surveys where someone pointed out the distinction between judgment and critique. If I'm giving you judgment, I'm judging you, and so my intent is to make you feel bad, is to guilt you, is to give you some kind of emotional slashing for this thing that I felt. And where critique is, here's what happened, how I saw it, how you can learn from it, how you can be better, and the intention is for you to be better. So I received it as that. It's an intention for you to be better. But as you were also talking about how you hear your male privilege when you're being, sometimes it's a critique or judgment. Are you being checked? Are you being told in love? And how you're told your privilege is, I'm telling you what it is because I took it all this feminist theory, and let me explain to you. Let me explain to you what they didn't tell you, because the patriarchy is so fucked up. But let me break down to you how you're so broken as a man in society, and I've got some, and all the truth that is woven in there. To your point, it's easy to dismiss it because we're telling you from an academic, intellectual space about how you are and how that's making us feel.
It feels like fighting a privilege with a different privilege, if that makes sense. So I'm informed enough about this instance that I can tell how, your tallness and your masculinity is dominating this space, and I'm gonna hit your wall with my privilege of just knowing about that.
And with all the knowledge, whether I'm telling you about your tallness or your whiteness or your maleness or your hetero-ness or the fact that you like root beerness, all the nessnesses that we come with, how do I give that information to you in a way that you're going to even want to receive it, as opposed to, I don't know.
Call me out on Facebook, everybody.
Tag me. So yeah, Marina, Elise, and what's your name? Justin. Jesse. I'm sorry about that. Jesse, want to give you guys the opportunity to talk about a privilege that you have, that you recognize you have, a privilege that you're still trying to understand.
Oh, my mic first.
You can Katie also.
Okay.
Oh, okay. A privilege I'm familiar with, I've been dealing with the last few years, is my passingness, because I'm straight passing, and I'm also fairly white passing. So that's been hard because I've been taught a lot of fears and anxieties that I don't need to have. And I didn't really know why I had those because I wasn't directly taught why. Like why I'm afraid to drive in certain neighborhoods, like West Dallas or Elm Grove or Wauwatosa. There's no actual reason for me to feel that way, but I was raised to feel that fear because other people in my family felt that fear, and similar ones, and the whole feeling no belonging in institutions. Even though when I do enter, when I enter university, they don't look at me like I don't belong, but I definitely feel like I don't belong, and I don't have to feel that way, but that's that. But yeah, it's been a privilege to enter white spaces and be a resource to them to change people's minds because I have a better opportunity to do that maybe than Black folks. So I try to do that. It's very draining. So yeah, that's what I think about a lot, and because it's Milwaukee. Because Milwaukee, and we have to think about race all the time, no matter who you are. Or you really should, no matter who you are. I'm getting a lot more familiar. I still need to do some more understanding of what it means to have privilege as a woman. I don't want to be a man in our society, despite all the things I face. As a woman, I would not want to be a man. That sounds horrifying. I will.
Explain, please.
Well, because I feel like guys have these expectations,
Oh, that
and
part.
no one's giving them. They have all those. They have the expectations, and they're forced to play a role, but no one's showing any sympathy for them.
Word.
Whereas I can get sympathy if I'm I'm treated this way because I'm a woman. I can be like that, and people will hug me and say sorry.
There'll be a march.
There's gonna
pink hats.
There's gonna be a march with pink hats. But I don't know. I don't know how it feels. I have no idea. I can't even imagine how it feels to be a guy. But I think there would be some stresses.
There's so many jokes there. Great.
So proud of you right now,
Thank
Marty.
you.
So proud.
Thank you. Somebody.
We are.
I wanted to, just because I also feel you on the passing, I feel like I've been a chameleon with it. It's both been a privilege and baggage sometimes. It's it feels, depending on what room I'm in, I'm never actually very uncomfortable. Although, secretly, I've been uncomfortable around all white people my whole life. But everybody, but not really. It's been more internal. No one's made me feel uncomfortable, and that's a privilege, right? I've never, I literally can be in any group of people, and no one's ever made me feel like you don't belong here, or you shouldn't be here, or your voice is unwelcome. I've actually always managed to, I think because people are I don't know, you could be one of us.
Right.
And I kind of just act, I take that as a privilege, and I'm like, okay, I'm gonna take it. Yeah, I am one of you. And because you can't really, I'm ethnically ambiguous. I just allow people to think that, and I even as I've done a performance based on that, where I've actually asked people what they think I am, and more times than not, people are like, yeah, okay, they just think I'm them. And then also that has also resonated when I'm traveling outside of the country, I've even in places where I'm definitely not from, people are still asking me, like in their language, if I am that them.
Dominican?
No, but that's closer than some people.
Latin American, right? Or Latin American?
Yeah, I'm Colombian.
Oh, okay.
Oh.
Yes.
That's
So-
Dominican like.
Dominican like.
So yeah, so but that's it's,
Privilege.
but then it's both a privilege, but also because I do feel that pressure of like how like because I'm allowed to be in spaces and allowed in all sorts of different spaces. Then what is my duty to like uphold that and also speak up for people who aren't allowed in spaces who are definitely ignored because of all these status quo. So so it's both me feeling like being excited to have that privilege, but also feeling like, oh gosh, this is like a lot of power too, and not really wanting that power. And then, then my female privilege of being like told I'm not supposed to have power, but then also getting older, not giving any fucks anymore. And then that, and I think that privilege is what I'm like really thinking about now, and still working through is like knowing that like, that I have the privilege of, not caring about opportunities or like closed doors because like I'm speaking up and I'm saying the things that are making everybody uncomfortable. And if you're uncomfortable and you don't want to work with me, then goodbye. I don't want to work with you if you're uncomfortable to have that conversation. To like point out other people's privilege is something that I'm doing a lot of in the last 3 years here in Milwaukee. And yeah, and that feels like, and I know that I have. I guess also since I've lived all over the States, like I also know if I like close too many doors, I can always just pick up and leave. And that like that's a privilege too. And that
Mobility.
yeah, like I can say all the things because I know I can uproot somewhere else if it really gets bad.
Right.
Hopefully it doesn't. Hopefully I can change minds.
So I got a question. As a Colombian heritage woman, a Latin American descent that's able to pass, do you find yourself in situations where you notice other people's privilege, like they might not necessarily recognize about being a Latin descent? So I mean to say, you're in a group with white people and they being racist, or those people don't belong over here. What are those people doing over here? With you because they think because you're ethnically ambiguous, you see the racism or the privilege expressing itself, and not even necessarily. I don't mean to say black and white, but why are those poor people by the door type thing? Have you noticed those situations?
You almost like a spy or something.
Do you
Yes,
feel like
I totally do. Yeah, I've been in, just some really in rooms where people like think that they like I'm down with racism because, and I'm like this is messed up in so many different levels. Like, is this really what white people really this racist? No, and it's not been that often, but it has happened, and it really scares me because it's like, okay, just because you think I'm it's like you're now you're attacking my people. You don't even know it's my people. You're attacking other people that I don't want to attack that aren't my people, but are like, so yeah, it does feel like I'm a spy sometimes, and I'm like, yeah, and again, like that the power, like, and figuring out when and how do I like stand up for it, because also sometimes it's like it's not my job always to educate people.
So, still want to give Elise and Jesse a place to speak, but in the interest of time and all the people who didn't get to hear the pieces earlier, I want to ask that our readers, Destiny and Mario, you can go first. Read the pieces just back to back, and then we can continue the discussion. As you're hearing these pieces, I want you to be listening for a line that really resonates with you, right? So I connect to that line, or that makes me think about, or that challenges this understanding that I have, but be listening for a line that really sits with you, and then be ready to speak to why, because I think we'll just go around the circle with that. Mario.
Vessels. From this end of the sextant's micrometer, the slaves weeping and screaming sounds like singing in your sub-boss. They look you in your face, gauge your neck, make you a mule. Even in a cap and gown, you are rocking the boat. The first thing overboard is the cargo. Don't notice the travel logs. Just make way for them. How we got here means nothing. The destination is more important to the captain. What happens in the belly of the ship should stay there. Who taught you to speak so proudly? Stand with your back straight like the masthead. You must gotten an affirmative action owed to some air of better breeding. For your kind, the lash and the serving, you are upsetting the natural order of things. God damns you to this birthright. It's this way for a reason. You are better suited for your station, even when you know which way the wind blows and why. Better you be still, packed tightly together, clawing for space. You are violent and wretched, a wild, untamed savage. The chief's mate's lethargy is your station, a place below him. The hierarchy solid as the bow of the ship, our final port ashore into the wide open arms of more masters. Yes.
The gift. The bliss of not knowing, unaware of the gift. This is your natural state. Labels that establish bonds, banding us together, yet separate us at our core, and here we sit, caught in the mix of honoring tradition that stands in the way of change. Things tend to be more intense in black and white. Gray areas bridge the dividing line, still so far away. Do you see what I mean? Would you rather it be brought to light, flickering its shadow from the pain that burns? Would anyone want that confrontation? The announcement that your day-to-day activities, entertainment, things sought for amusement, are at the expense of those who are nameless, passed over, because something without a name is nothing. Understanding can't be obtained if we have no words that give life, racism or prejudice, justice or just cause privileged. I didn't say that. Nobody said that. I mean, you're here, right? Sharing in what we have, what's given to all of us. I mean, that's nice of us, right? You must feel lucky. I heard it's hard. The wealth shoulders that eclipse glances when you pass, the white noise of whispers formulating reasons of your presence here, like chanting spells over cauldrons, not too loudly. Lest you are a fan of flames, making a small fire into an inferno. It's unnatural. How upset some people can get over nothing. Should we even name it? This elephant of guilt, this wall of moral outrage as national heritage site to the world. No idea of how to move past it, but constantly telling people to get over it. Quite simply, it would be nicer just to call it racism and leave it alone. So we can all agree that giving it a name, life, effort, energy has no benefits for anyone, or at least no benefits that can be seen by everyone.
So maybe you already have your line that resonates with you. Maybe you still need a minute to think. Welcome to take that time if you need it, but whenever the first person is ready to talk about their line, go ahead and start and then pick a direction to go in the circle and we'll move that way.
Who taught you to speak so proudly? That resonated with me. The idea of that conversation, always someone has approached you with the, you talk so proper. You know, that you've been given that privilege to be educated and that we're not used to seeing people like you educated. I think that's really stuck out for me.
The gift, you're in your natural state, in its natural state, or your natural state. Honestly, this whole weekend has been like very artsy. I'm saying weekend. That's what, exactly. It feels like a weekend because it's been really a very artsy week for me. And like just constantly being in these different spaces of and having conversations with people. In Milwaukee in particular, is like the gifts that people know that they're having or that they have, or realizing in others and realizing how important it is just to be you, literally learn that and then build off of that, and we all build together, you know, like, and that sits with me because it's in your natural state. You don't have to do anything on the outside, really. It's really you, and then you fix the outside. So mine was caught in the mix of honoring tradition with implementation that stands in the way of change. So I think the tradition I'm referring to is like mental conditioning, or like the tradition of Black being lesser, or has to privilege, or like just the indoctrination of such. That's the tradition, and honoring that. You know what I'm saying? Because we've come so far, we haven't finished that mission of like civility and like social justice and things of this nature. But it definitely stands in the way of change in terms of like reformulating what it means to be who you are. You know what I'm saying? Regardless of a system, you know what I'm saying? What does it look like if we were to like literally just be left to our own devices? You know what I'm saying? Without any outside forces, and recognizing what that means, and being open to the change. I think that's what we stuck in tradition of. Like, if the change or if what we look for as social justice or whatever doesn't look like this, then it's not that. You know what I'm saying? It's not really changing. So if we're not protesting, we're not doing it. You know what I'm saying? If we not, I mean, what's another one? I think protesting the biggest one that we still hold on. And I personally feel doesn't necessarily get the job done. You know what I'm saying? Because typically the people who are protesting aren't there with you. You know what I'm saying? The problem that's affecting the people aren't there. You know what I'm saying? They at work. You know what I'm saying? So you're speaking on somebody else's behalf. So you're not really, the people who need to protest it can't, you know, so. But the tradition definitely stands in the way of change. Recognizing that all traditions are mentalized.
I have to run off, but thank you for this. This has been awesome.
Thank you.
Thank you for being here.
Thank you for sharing.